나 들려. 나 딩기 거스와발라. 나 도망이냐 창을이야. 네. 치료 딜리쇼다. 슈규다. 아니 엔딩기 니 답이 취지 수바디 자규인
First of all, I would like to wish everyone good afternoon, and we will now begin our afternoon Dharma session.
아다나 지 마신네 당 차바포도 요래 디톨이야 되니 가르사디 차바포 대회 띵도 다나 셔베 기즈망 무시해상 되게 디즈 트루 대회 소리도 레인두스다 지 슈드럽시다 메딩에르지 지 켄사버스도 레인두스다네 다야고지 슈드야스케민도 아조조디마 다디 답을 타긴 차상 차야 돼. 가라 갑시다래. 차상 차야도 가라 갑시다래. 이 차상 차야 가라 가버셔야 되네. 딱간 차사를 쳐야. 반에 답간 차사 쳐도 있어.
Now, actually, I've been getting a cold, and in addition to having the cold, it's been difficult to do all the preparations. But in any case, it is going to be difficult to finish the entire jewel ornament of liberation, but we will do as much of it as we can.
다대한 디나로 질 최탐제 고아의 양에는 대비 니순 류소 대라 고아시사와네 정시 동반이 나버 추베이 친이 동에도 샤와 이노 양에는 대비 시사와네 정시 동반이 나버 추버 탐제 세제와 이 친이 동에 탐제를 줘와 이노 대라 코어 추번이야 수추나 감성 있으면 추로 시질을 추나 동반이를 추로 유치를 주는 머리 받침을 틀로 수치들 주는 로아리 두고 주도 틀로 뼈치들 주는 니들 면음들 틀로 뒤 남내 주는 코아 통마매번 틀로 추발의 균지나 동행 바실의 죄도 추발 이시수 남주나 라메 전주 톱자는 유로 추발라랑상 외다냐나 코아 타매버 잡았대 이노 아들이 소유의 흉지래.
The text begins, in general, all phenomena are included in the two categories of samsara and nirvana. That which is called samsara is emptiness by nature, a confused projection. Its defining characteristic is that it manifests as suffering. That which is called nirvana is also emptiness by nature, but all the confused projections are exhausted and dissipated. Its characteristic is freedom from all suffering. Who is it that is confused in samsara? All sentient beings of the three realms are confused. On what basis does confusion arise? Confusion arises on the basis of emptiness. What causes confusion to arise? The cause of confusion is great ignorance. In what manner is it confused? It is confused as being the spheres of experience of the six beings in the six realms. What is an example of this confusion? The confusion is like sleep and dream. When did this confusion originate? This confusion originated in beginningless samsara. What is the error of confusion? All experiences are suffering. When can this confusion be transformed into primordial wisdom? When one attains unsurpassable enlightenment. If you think that perhaps this confusion will disappear by itself, then understand that samsara is known to be endless. So these are the words of the text.
只缺他们是花的两人的艺术女送的啥呢？打的了呀，他把推荐给看啥呢？就写完下个月去了，听艺术女送吧，呀呢，啥些的上面也要钱呢？去了啥些的上面也要钱呢？啥个的这边去，他们这归用科学去是多的，上面一去，那么在两代去是多的，这啥些上面过来要在吧？大多了他把推荐给这两是连接给确实呢这样多，他这两个人就电把系送过来的，电把系送的啥呢？这两归用科学去的，就这你那么在两代去就这你，大多呢。두근이다 되네 골람니부티 다들이 속에 여빈 뉴스안에 난 냠수 렌즈 취해 탐지 되는 누구래 속
Now here, when it says that all phenomena are included in the two categories of samsara and nirvana, for individuals who seek enlightenment, generally we need to understand that there are these two types of phenomena. And we can call these the defiled and the undefiled phenomena. Basically, the defiled phenomena are samsara. The undefiled phenomena are nirvana. And if we talk about it in terms of how they're included in the Four Noble Truths, generally we say all phenomena can be included in the Four Noble Truths. So those that are included in the truths of suffering and origin are defiled, or samsara, and those that are included in the truths of cessation and the path are nirvana. And so in this way, all phenomena can be summarized in this manner.
최이나 코데니 카루니 미켜마지 서머베다 이제 딱세로 다 이제 당빈 다 대고 저버지래 배나 너네 가서 리자와 차근김 지 분발라서 와디서 코와 레스니 코와 마레스니 음아디 치다 치수르지래 기딘 로상바데스 게시 도메게 길로 게시 침보총 기딘 로상바데 대다 게시 시럽게 들어와 게시 시럽게 인세다 안다 고난 이제발 디 분바 코와 이멘터라 가바 망보게 데 거저바 망고 지자다 다 딘주산에 다 지주 망고시 슈모고체 단도나 아주 두에 겁리야 다 두아사데 파바토메기 때라 넘버 두아사죠 파바토메기 사땡하나 두아 겁리야 가르송요 알사나 데네 뎀바시디 네바질 베샤네 송요아레
Now, generally, when we say that all phenomena are included in samsara and nirvana, then there's a debate that comes out, and whether if any particular phenomena is necessarily samsara or nirvana. And so the question is whether mountains, fences, or vases and so forth are necessarily samsara. And some people say that they are samsara, some people say that they are not samsara. There was a Geluk Geshe with whom I had many debates about this, but in any case, it's not necessary to debate about this so much right now. In any case, there is, in Sanga's text, the levels of the Bodhisattva, there is the example of illness as an example for the Four Noble Truths.
cancer some dener de naza pobimina adin dener na nimbu double tate kunjun de baisare tatne naza susere ta ne thela dener ji naza susela so ta dindegi 동해 중어디 동해 대바임이라 다 진짜게 내 중어데 빵네 내 매번 좋아 다고 나자르 가르 될래야 맨데 쥐어가 망고 체네 에 될라데네 지금 내 상라를 침바다디 고베 덴바 단내 빵네 장 메벤바 라르 미기위 취진도 샤리아 에 람지 덴발 덴거바 다데 드린 주산에 네베 시두아나 가르송 알았네 네베 멤버라 대섬시 제வர் 차와 세도 메베게 대섬시 땜바 차와 세도스 네베기 멤버 땡과데 아 된도 차와 대섬시를 되네 네베 멤버 땜바레스 멤버기 네발라 더즈마도시 나 같이 하스게요 대섬시 just 대섬시 다들이 주산에 대준선을 되네 근데다 파베 덴방 아사지 메스 파베 심 덴바 시사지 드네 주산에 단 디즘도 세바 인소 다드네 주산에 디준선 되네 파베 덴바 시 파베 덴바 시비난 다도 공도 시비는 시레 텔레야 꾸는 용몽베 초기 균제니다 남자 냐데 초기 균제니 여비메레 드네 주산에 타번 대베 강사기 시에버 차와 냠소 랑어 차와 대점도 세도 대거즈마도 제다 뭐 대점식 저기 예수
For example, if we get an illness such as cancer, if we have that illness, there are the causes that cause the illness to occur. And so those causes and conditions for the illness are like the truth of origin. And then all the pain, discomfort, and suffering that accompanies the illness is like the truth of suffering. And then when we undergo medical treatment to eliminate the illness and heal ourselves of that illness coming to a state of good health, then that state of being free of the illness is like the truth of cessation. And all the treatment that we do undergo in order to eliminate the illness is the truth of the path. And so in this way, there's this example about the illness and the treatment as being like the Four Noble Truths. And so in this way, this is what the Four Noble Truths are like. So now, as I was saying before, when we talk about the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, we said that all phenomena can be included in the two categories, the all-afflicted samsaric phenomena, and then there are the utterly pure nirvanic phenomena. And so this is what those who wish to seek liberation need to know. And I think understanding it in this way is probably enough.
진이 소바 담제 호알은 증도 호알은 주보다 도바 디니 날마 뒤에 메스 호알은 주보다 호알에 도바 디니 날마 뒤에 메스 내가 제 다도 가주에지 가다 된지 공대 탐제 콘데니보 나 디나로래야 뉴아레소.
It is as the Kadampa spiritual friend Rinpoche said, all of the Buddhas of the past, all the Buddhas of the present, all the Buddhas of the future, all of their words, as well as all of the mountains of treatises that have been written by the great masters, all of these explain two things. They explain how it is that samsara occurs and how it is that it can be reversed. And so basically this, the intent of all of the Buddha's words and all of the great treatises comes down to these two.
Chapter number was Chegovina. Dinshin Jundo Manorosan and Rando. Dembashin Yamne to me, Dembashin Yamne, I would say what it. 다 개집시 차디 아래 대버시기 가르래 딘시 퇴만어와 셰과데 개집시 차디 아래 셰마도 베게 엔지 가르래 진제베다 간다라 방제 코웨 방제 가리임바 란제 가리임바 다 진제기 그라 방랑 중도 그라 하마오나 아니 점도데 바제 되는 민버를 지다 아니 양타버를 중하디 갈라카버를 송
In brief, even if we're doing the practice of going for refuge, we need to understand the practice of the Four Truths. We need to understand this without mistake, and it is important to understand it so. Otherwise, if we don't know what it is that we need to give up, if we don't know what it is that we need to take up, then it will be difficult for us to properly practice the refuge in a way that will ripen as a good result.
다 될라 코데니 정신 코데니 나바 코데니 신이 다디 수고하래 코데니 정신 세베 걸리야 당연 대발라
And next it explains in terms of the natures and the aspects and the characteristics of the two, of samsara and nirvana.
텔레야 군기 베마 갈베기 시인 율메라 되네 가자 시인 율메라 되네 된담대바 당긴 율왈 되네 군습된바스这苏门的心给人心东北你别查呢，我对他们对吧？当工作对吧？你个就基本查的呀了，过吧说 ，OK， kunci bema karbe ki, ngarang ngarang, kunci bema karbe karso sana 시기, 시스도 sana 정신이라, 시기 귤메라. 유아메베게 때다 정신이어봐. 텔라 되네 된담 담바스. 당스도 남규르서봐 남규르 되네 군습 담바스. 당기 규르알라 되네 군습 담바스. 되네 송아라스. 딜레야 디 칸도 암조 규야데메. 자주미도
So the omniscient Pema Karpo said that in terms of the basis that it is ultimate truth, and in terms of the activity or the changes that happen, it is relative truth. But in any case, the nature is emptiness.
Senandando nilu thone shebe bine dini yerme islam ne jgore ta yimbine negab ki nabala tene ta dini sosor shab ta dini dusane dini ngoji la na dokba thade sigare ta yang khashi ki dini di ngoji ga mai thade ya mai sigor ta dona migyu doji ki sheba de chebina paji mata maji zamla 디니 오지라 도바타데 임베르시 가상만 디르지 용데게 위서치 다양베 다신 제용주산에 아니 저 오지라 도바기지야마 당 오지다 타데다 차와 인스 디데스고아레 디니 주산에 다양 네급 디니 남사 제고나 오지다 타데다 차와 인스 지다 타데 간샤도 메스나 디스칼라 하브르시 인주산에 네급 디니 긴남샤 셰 조베 네 세나 거마 마다 마제베 세나 자 저도 다 다시 마제베 세사나 저도 디디급랴 디니 오지를 도바 타데 임베소르다 드리지 수아레 다 간다야 다고 저바 망보르 시아야 아레 다 간다야 시 오외 차네 셰비나 군주 되면 뭐야 동번이래 대남 되면 뭐야 동번이래 뭐요 차네 거의 이해를 매봐 선한다도 여와 치규 매버를 차대하래 남배 차네 라고 나한테서 그 넘주미라로 또 이건디가 알았어.
Now, in terms of the nature of samsara, it is emptiness. The nature of nirvana is emptiness. These two, in terms of the way they actually are both emptiness. They're the same and indivisible in this way, and yet they appear individually. And so, in this way, we sometimes talk about how they are the same in essence and the different in isolate, or the different in the manner that they appear. Now, here, there's a lot of debate. There are some people who say that they are the same in essence and the different in isolate. Some people say they are not the same in essence and different in isolate. The eighth Karmapa Mikyo Dorje said, as we discussed a little while ago, in the terms of the pre-analytic phase, that is, before you've performed any analysis, they seem to be the same in essence and yet different in their aspect or isolate. But once you have examined them, you see that they are free of any sameness in nature, or of any being separate in their isolate. And that is how we should understand it. But for the time being, I think we can explain it as being the same in their essence, but different in their isolate, or that is different in the way that they appear. And so here we can say that this is the phase of being before the analysis. And so generally then what this means is that if we look at them in terms of their essence, basically the foundation, the relative truth is emptiness, ultimate truth is also emptiness. And so there is no difference or separability in terms of their essence, and yet the ways that they appear, their aspects, are different.
가서 추的착바는 신 추的착바는 신기 기지시 샤요 봐 착바의 추의人心래 추의人心뭐 지벌라 남바드면 다로 싫어다 추 말하자 법슈디 그런 가르쳐 사신 책위 오늘 찍게 차요 말에 다 지단練习 영어도 다 이민다 넘주르디 디즈만다로 지당게 추다 착바니 넘주르디면 다로 차디요 人心出因不结果的是，第一笔军事点呢，那么军的还是说，还是啥的，那么到出国因素啊的，两个的这土的面着什么的这这样的多，那么到出国，这点军的地区偏哪干什么呢？偏啥嘞？
So it is like ice and water. Ice by nature is water, but it is hard, it is solid. And so when water freezes, it becomes hard and solid. It is different in aspect, in the way it appears. And yet it is, by nature, it is still liquid. And so in this way, the aspect or the appearance of the water changes, and yet the nature is still the same. And so for this reason, I think when we say that thoughts are the Dharmakaya, this is the point that is meant.
동반이디 상계규 투규리에베 슈니디 추구이베체 오니구이베체 셈쟁규리에베게 동반이디 추구메이베게저시어 다이네 찬사 추구 바 동니의 추구 타녀를 다네 소머베다 동니 추구레사데 순가 딱 간다 가이님이네 다 니가로 베나 남도 추구시에 두산에 추구 상황이 몇이야. 남도 녜바 임베 정아주 3년나 되죠. 봐. 돈이스도 야가르지. 남도서 누구는지. 다 얘네 그냥 어찌고 인상. 나를 추구고 남도 구면서 남도 거라 유샤나. 추구당 예매 예배드니 가서 남도당 예매도 예배 돈이 있었는데 남도 유고 치러. 가서 군이 카체드면 저희 뉴스안에 카체드면서 뭐 예매 인상 그 냠도 여러 냠도 예배 인두산에 에네 디준셀 때네 엔다 가서 남도 어디 냠버르치 에네 추구 상황을 비치 근데기 상행기 가서다 지버르시나 맞지 다 든데지 삼동안 계시버르지 자대면으로 성도
And so, when we say that the essence of thought is the Dharmakaya, that emptiness, when we say the emptiness that is present in within the wisdom mind of the Buddha, that is the Dharma nature, that is the Dharmakaya. And then we talk about the emptiness that is within the stream of being of an ordinary person, and so sometimes we don't call that sometimes we don't call that the Dharmakaya. In any case, that emptiness is not. So what we're saying here when we say that the nature of thought is the Dharmakaya is we're saying that emptiness is the Dharmakaya. Often we think when we talk about thoughts and we talk about the Dharmakaya, we think about thoughts as being bad and Dharmakaya as being good, as emptiness as being something good. But they're the same in essence. And so if we say to ourselves, oh, I need the Dharmakaya, but I don't need thoughts, actually these two are inseparable. The nature of the thoughts, the nature of thought is that very emptiness itself. It can't be separated. It can't be taken apart from that. These two come together. And so I think that it is important for us, therefore, to understand that we should not think about thoughts as being something bad and the Dharmakaya as being something good.
다들 배치다도 추나사들이야 추주들이야 니的밀름다 추로 송도아 니的밀름다 추로 자들레베 차체 니사데 머리비 배체 밀름사데 리주고 나와 나서 샤르베 대체네 그는 게 없다.
Now here in the text it says, what exemplifies this confusion, or what is an example for the confusion? The confusion is like sleep and dream. And so here it is a twofold example of being like sleep and like dream. So sleep is like an example or an analogy for ignorance, and dream is for like an analogy for the appearances or the perceptions of the six beings in the six realms of samsara.
다들 추벌을 교인치유에서 추나 추다 개바 가려어레스 교인 가려어레스 교인면은 추나 추 삼바르다 니용디 가르데네 다 교인 가려어레스나 교인데다 동행 바시를 쥐어도 소래 다디 동행 바시사데 동행 코나사 된다르시와 다 동행 코나를 쥐어도 순두사네 다 지딘지 카올라야 대화 따르나와서는다도 대화 잡았는데 파트에나 대진 잡았는데 알아야지 대다 삼지경 동해 충유기 다 동해 충유 고주보인 봐 다든지 저거 아주 쉽게 배나올래야 숭어와 내주산에 도나 사제기 딱 간다 레다 녀몽베 왕도 규신시엘이야 되네 대응어매기 대화선한다도 대화 신입을 선한다도 터두기 대화를 선한다도 대두고요 말해서.
And then it says, what is the error, what is the fault or the problem that comes from this confusion? And it is that that one only experiences suffering. So it's only suffering that one experiences. And here, it is of course true that in samsara we think that we experience ordinarily, we think we experience some coarse form of pleasure. We do think we experience the pleasure, but actually this is really a small form of suffering, as is said in the 400 verses. Essentially, anything that is defiled, anything that is controlled by karma and the afflictions is actually, in the true nature, ultimately, is not a true happiness or not true pleasure.
다들이야 어느 가족이 가수에 다스바 차니스네 다도 민조아 차번에 손데 다다봐도 지 디기를 쩨네 다 디기 요하게 탑던 배바 두머지 셔야 and the nan labardu as Tyrip Juguba Nishuba the name goes Zoze and Miri Soleg Yarge summer Soje Yarge Tsirgi Yarge is a contorcine and that under Jingar Digi Yoa summer Digi Yoa the Undu Cherchine that under Donachi Kashwe 이츠버지다 안다는 신기 롯데와는 되지 아지기 아주 가래 배주체 아래 탑로망부세 아래 다는 신기 딱 간다 늘비체 아래디 이메는 다다봐도지 덜로킹 버르지다 더버스버 다 오늘은 더도 니긴 데렌도 사지 디비 이르 침체 로덴데데지 다다봐도 마중이 버 단도 오마지 충분히나 다단도 디 먼지니 다 텔레 야가지다 텔레 삐 타가지 고도 세세 근데 지금 딱 안다라 아마디 맞음 비체네 아니 양결 치마지 쇠고야지 너나 디 가르 따된 거라서나 다 디기 양 다버지 디기 뇰로킹 바지 마중 따된 거 아니 세리 디고 야게 주어래 나망아 말이 야게 주어래 다 디기 가르서나 간다 어다 진짜 토하네 다다보든 뇰로킹 바지 중앙 말았어
Since the beginnings of humankind until now, we haven't had any true happiness, but we keep on trying to do things. We've tried to find methods to bring ourselves happiness and things to do to bring happiness. And beginning especially in the 19th and the 20th century, there began to be great improvements in the way we humans have lived. There have been great improvements in science, increases in science, and this has also brought an increase in our desires to have happiness. Yet we still have not found any happiness that we're really satisfied with. We do many things. We put a lot of effort into bringing ourselves happiness and pleasure. We do many different things to bring for it. We wish for happiness, and yet we're never satisfied with that. If we had the ultimate happiness, the real true happiness, then we would be satisfied with it, but that is not what happens. We might have had some pleasures or happinesses in the past, but we are not satisfied with them. And so we look for the next happiness, the next thing after that. And so if you have some sort of a happiness and you're always looking for further happinesses, then this is a sign that you really have not found the true happiness. And so we have had a great deal of scientific development, but we still have not brought ourselves true happiness.
첩시버디 수익이 더주르도 우마이는 더주르도 가려르잖아. 단 점불링기 미래 상으로다 마음발에 야게 침부시 치네. 딱 간다는 점불링기 교 탐지래. 소수 가래 고예비네. 다 소수를 뒤 여버지. somewhere 잘라 뭐고 자기 롱주 가래 고예비네. 뒤 여버지. 다 든지 있고 야게도 시리야게 동스 땅이나 든지 뒤주 용을 했어. 안 디디즈안 되는 배 가서다 타바토베스로 젠다 간다 지상으로 가서야지 다 간다 2,000%는 라도 로데와서는 라도 디디즈 용거래사지 디디지기 초발 디디지 삼토니들이 어디 있으래 다 이네들 깔아 가보러 봐 가라서 지단 쉐비나 베능마 총셉 디디지리아 엄마 차게 가면 봐 팅두기 차게 가야 매비실이야. 아니 그 모델 안가듯이 에너지 가서에 모델에서 모델. 안다는 신지 강보면서 강보로 됐어요. 총감에서 총감수에네 당보 지들이 약으로 지어래. 기부를 김도 하고 지어래. 네 야마 제마야 디 집이 지금이다. 디 집이 침네 다 리송 다 로데송 다 배가서 세럽도 다 리서리스 아서지 야면은 다 리소사르지 딘디지 로지안 미도와 모더 존나디 인디고면 야디 모더디 야지 가서에 모더다네지 역도를 먹고체 아니 모더 인디고만 다 드네 지 가다셈 레베완도 단 도나 이제 도도르디 아전 좋아 미기 대배왕도 당샤위네 쌤 대배왕도 당샤나 대발은 좋다요만 좋다요만 대발은 좋다요만 이비냐 점불링기 다 정중의 튼공스라는 자도 점불링기 다 벤조 야게 튼공 될래야 좋다요 대 치시요 근데 이 치시요 버지가 치시 매배기 되네 미긴 대박간투 말 이 용다 매버지 점불링 미탐제기 대박 공사디 이 대한 친구비기 그전 별로 공투사디 용다 매버지가 되지 차디요래 안드린 주스단에 디존셀 되네 아네 가주에 가주기 디기디 친구부 라베 코나라베 템밤 친구부를 쉬우지 댄세 든디지가 토안에 친구부를 댄네 소소지 디기 용거를 상바로 지기당 안다나 신기 지 가서 삼든 두고래 상상으로 근데 그 삼도 안 돼야지 조지네 다 눈을 비차대요 아래
There are many scientists and many materialists who have a way of looking at the world, and the way they see it is that if everyone in the world were provided with everything that they needed through gradual development, equal development, and everyone were able to have everything they needed, all the facilities and all the things they needed, then that would be enough. Then you wouldn't have to call it liberation or anything, but basically everyone would be satisfied with what they had if you could provide them enough materially. But though there are some people who say this, it would be difficult for this to actually happen. And the reason is that if you think about it, if you were to go to some sort of a village that in the past had no facilities, nothing, no development at all, and it had no roads, you put in a road. And then there were no cars. You brought in cars. There are no houses. You built houses, and no stores. Then you built stores. At first, everyone would think this is great. It would be happy. But then after a little while, it wouldn't be. It would no longer be satisfying. It would no longer be okay. And so in general, for like with cars, the cars at first they're good, but then there are better cars and worse cars, and so then the cars would not be enough for people. And this is because people would just be following after the desires in their own mind. Basically, the point here is that there is no end to the human desires. There's no limit to human desires. And yet we live in a world where there is a limit to the resources, and there is a limit to the resources, and thus a limit to the development that these resources can support. And so when you have this conflict between the unlimited human desires and the limits of the resources, then there's really no way that the development of external things can possibly be able to fulfill the unlimited human desires. And so for that reason, we might think to ourselves that we can bring ourselves happiness solely by relying upon external things. And yet, solely relying upon external things, it would be difficult to bring ourselves happiness. And if we were to think in that way, that is a mistaken way of thinking.
다 기한주 현실에 디산 지조 나로리아 덴바 메인바 우유 메인비 니즈 먹고요래 베나 차샤빈다 신다 베나 가주래 베나 잘라 베 둘로 차서미입니다 둘로 주면 먹고요래 베나 까바니 년다지 쇠샤 인사 이제 이게 가서 민주면 다다시 이제 둘로 주면 먹고요래 아 둘로 주면은 자가 이제 이제 교스케면 다 텔레 도어디 가라서 되네 칼라 주마 소머로 다 칼라는 대상만 이be 칼라 주마선한다도 뉴스인이 칼라 먹고요래 다는 신기 맨주마 나한테 먹고요래 세상 아주 그 뒤에 이그 선주 나로리아 근데 이 가서야 돼 아주 고고테 미망고지 이제다 칼라 주마다 맨 주마데 세네 이제 더 고고를 태바다 이제 뉴스 법은 니즈 망고지 가 다와나 텔레 두지 가라서나 텔레 두지가 가라서나 디기 주마디 다디 디기 주마디 미신하게 당연 대마셔선다
Now, as you all probably know, these days in our contemporary society, there are many instances of there being untrue or fake things. For example, there are things like clothes. You can get fake clothes. You might think that it's some expensive designer label with a real name, but actually it's not, and you are fooled into buying an imitation or a fake. Now, that's maybe not so bad. They may still be good clothes. But maybe you get some fake food, some food where they've adulterated it and put in something that is harmful for you. Or even worse than that, they have fake medicines that do not actually work as medicines. And so we hear in the news every day about people being fooled into buying fake food or fake medicines. And so that is a situation that often happens. And what is even worse than that is when we have fake happiness.
다들 디기 주마 ngaju pa ngaju samle nalo le ta digi yin samsang ro ji ta digi bu yin di debo yin samsang ro je ge pa de du san digi da na de bala tuen wa ma la digi ma yin ge ten je le yang ang zong go khor ne digi zuma ji lang go khor ne ane ta digi ngoma de toya gi 가르쳐야 다 발제시에서는 다도 어다 딜리아 가르쳐야 지 타린도 줘야 근데 지원이 거래 근데 인주스탄에 디준스 되네 아니 상기 좀데 가르쳐 오르스나 아니 고 가르쳐야 다 퇴용어메기 디기 있으는 다도 나랑 저기 산수에라 디기 tar be sambam loba yimbinya 퇴용어말래야 디기 tuyān tāmbē dīgī rēdō mīndō tā ngā zhō kā rā shwē chīgī kō tāngshē shē sā nā rāndō tā sām tōng wā dī dī kē chū mī chā dī gā rē bē nā tā nām yū dī shē tāng kī kōn shū nā shī rē bē nā chā kwa yē bā lī yā chā lā jī kō sā bā chī gyūn rīng bō kē wī yī mī nā chā kwa yē bā dī nā gā rē nā dū sā nē dī chā lā jī kō sā bā dā chā kwa yē bā lā pā bē shā nā 뾰주산 내가 들려야 아주 양성이 대상이 여러분 이제 소화 연구를 얘네 진짜 대상이 양상이 등 예상 아주 다 기분으로 종종삼 기분에도 삼바로 이제 삼등 거데 임비네 대 가르에 동행기 상황아마 대방가 다 치머디 가르워지 야 운규르세는 라바세는 다도 근데 슈체로 뭐지 디버로 들이야 아주지 대된다고 소나 총벌에 마다베 된기 거라 디기 뭐마지다 아니 가서 디기 양다버지 차요 말았어 드린 주사 디균zel 되네 된대베거다 대화 땅낭선한다도 대화 주면선한다 된대리야 고마 거로 치지 된기 대화 양다버지 토야체도 아주 배주 체고하대 계시모레스
Now, fake happiness is something where when we look at it from the outside, it seems to be happiness. It seems to be pleasurable and fun when we look at it from the outside, but in actuality is not. We've been fooled by it. We are fooled by this fake happiness, and we think, oh, this is fun, this is happy, but it is not actually happiness. And so for that reason, we need to understand what is the actual happiness, and think about what happiness actually is, and ultimately see what really is happiness. The fake happiness may seem to be happy right now in the beginning, but it is not not actually happiness according to Buddhism. For an example I've mentioned before. Like if you're carrying something very heavy on your right shoulder for a very long time, then it begins to weigh on you. It is painful and feels hard. And then when you move it to the left shoulder, then for a short time, it feels pleasant. You feel relaxed. You have this feeling before of relief, and you think, this is good. This feels nice. But really, what is happening is that this is just a period between the time when the former pain of carrying it on your right shoulder ceases, and the future pain has not yet started. So that is not actual happiness. That is not the true happiness. And so it is. So we can call this fallacious happiness. We can call it fake happiness. But in any case, it is important that we not be fooled by this, and that we actually put efforts into bringing ourselves true happiness.
내 인상 지주 밀려래봐. 지주 밀려래봐디 네 미메기 르동을 서버래. 저부 나로래야. 가와젠 주변냠len 제베 겁리야. 아니 공기 sigmo 베다. 뭔지 알래. 제주산에 지단 sigmo 베다 모라는데 장보지래도 또 롱가 정해지. 다 또롱가 종에 신주서 다 몰래 탑교하지 자두다. 얘 저저 된다. 알레 탑교하지. 당분에 알아 탑교에 가는데 저저 된다. 알레 탑교하지. 당분 뭐 마십지. 가르쳐 되베 가르쳐 리단으로 차디서 부르게 부모부르게 간주 차디로 깜부르 차 리단으로 차디서 뭐 마시지. 에네 깨라 되네. 깨고 셰네. 에네 신이 하고 왔어요. 저와 딱 간다 디디우산에 에네 지즈밀레베 가르수가 알았으나 땅에 가르다 세베 증명 땅에 그 또라 되나베 기타 파바는 시. 엔데 다나시 술 되나 다 간다 얘기 톱젤 대비나다 고셀 대비나다 술 대비나다 간다 조지가 통바이네야 어다 코페 사산도 선선으로 다 되지기 미주 쇼과 되지 이나양에 셈라 되나다 상기 거였다 얘기 셈되다 디기 칸이었어 수부대 바대는 양매서 아 디주산에 베다가라다 베닥 삼는 나라다 교랑 최자디 야난 오늘 전에 하고 싶지 있었다 야난 띵오네 수직이 맞아봐 최냠는 지금 수직이 있는데 제대로면도 교랑 경제 조스기면도 텔레 미조들 지금 베나 벌을 넣어서 말해다 디졸 되었다 띵나 두부 오하나 가는 묘아피 가르치지 있는 땅만 보시도 와 다티 가르친 거 알았잖아 베다디 지댕기 대화 따랑상 말해 다 대화 레사 드네지기 대화인 바 추네 롬네 다 드네지고 고나르 샤디오로 지주 밀레베기 터도기 대화데 마도베 내가기 대화디 이 맞은 밤 야나데 처음에 그러지 공원세 대 간다 내가기 대화디 고 가서 때나 말렘시 다 터두기 대화라베 실기 딜니 삼마베 냠내 탐지 배주 탐지 터두기 대화지 토하기 배주를 체제 든지기 배주 예글 닝도바 닝루야 아 다나시 든지기다 이체 예글 때네 든데 갈에 잡데 얼마도 든지기 이제면아 되네 간디 두갈에 잡고 자외 투마르라 잡아로 거봐요 바로 아 드린 주사디 가르친 거 알았잖아 간당 아주 넘기 지된바기 지 가르쳐 니기부른디 약보레스 통한데야디 등외변내수 토래야 디 기본원에지 뭐이봐 기본원에디 텔레 화보지암 텔레 매도 중앙서 말보다 늦지요 텔레 신도 규바시요 인베 인상 다디 준전되네 아니 지중기다 가진 배바 차고 니루 차고아디 에다 든지지레 제 투버지 가르서는 고란 얘기 셈래야 든지지기 다 간다라 초 우줍세란라도 대화 초도 기버 든지 토야기 이시 때모여베 지당 간다라 심슈 첨부여베 인주산 든들데네 거기까지 배주들이지 제 투버 종이 말해서 정기였어
It is like the Lord Milarepa, who kept to isolated places, caves and mountains without people, and he went through a lot of difficulties and underwent hardships to practice the Dharma. And while he was doing this, his sister Peta came to meet him. Now, Peta was also a beggar. She went to beg for her food and clothing. And when she came to see Milarepa, she saw that he was even worse off than she was. And so she thought to herself, first I thought I was bad off, but then look at my brother. He's even worse off than I am. Actually, at first she didn't even recognize him because he had changed so much. She couldn't recognize him from seeing him. He had grown greenish hair and he looked sort of like an animal. It was only from his voice that she was able to recognize them. So Milarepa, I don't remember the exact words, he said it is, my food might be like that of a dog or a pig. If you look at my clothing or my body, you think that I'm very bad off. So anyone who looks at this would think that I'm so bad off that they would, even if I were their enemy, they would start to weep tears over me. But when you look at my mind, then the mind is an actual Buddha, and this is the true happiness, the really fulfilling happiness. But Peta didn't see like that, and she said, either you're really doing true Dharma practice, or you're doing some sort of Dharma that no one else can possibly do, and that is your loss, and there's no point to doing that, she said. Why don't you be like Baro the translator, who does all these fancy things? He has horn blowings and great ceremonies and all this. And so the sister Peto was really mistaken. She was thinking about worldly happiness and thinking that that was actual happiness. But Milarepa was not. He's thinking about the ultimate happiness. He didn't really see much point or see much benefit to temporary happiness, and so he did not accept it, even when someone gave him temporary pleasures. And so for that reason, he was able to develop the courage or the real persistence or the confidence that he was able to would be able to find an ultimate result, something that would be able to truly satisfy him, and he was able to ignore this. He had this confidence or this perseverance to be able to do that. So normally when we talk about things, we say, oh, this is really quite nice, this is good. There are many things that we talk about. These are worldly happiness. They're not the actual true pleasure and true happiness. And so if we look at them and realize this, then we will be able to practice the way that Milarepa, he was able to we'll be able to put the effort in as Milarepa did, and then he saw that there was an ultimate result, the supreme siddhi that came from this. He saw that there would be an ultimate happiness, and because he saw that there was this, he was able to really put all his mind behind it, all his powers behind it, and able to do such great efforts.
Today, starting as a military and she savage the check or rest government, the chain and younger sour. But in Yima Dundajan and shit or it. The name you sane, Taco military Kran, the Rodanje or Taco, Tishi of Giara. The gods man, but gas, the military. Dina, Gobdilia, the sugar, Jimson, Caras, and Cheshire, Chungurus. 제샤 충주르세 알게지죠, 여러분. 다 전부 저 중국도 봐 유시고 알아. 주도지기면 고고기면. 드린 유산에 랑게 미유딘 좀 봐도 신다 아직 담인데 지 가르쳐다지 미유디 마선 봐디 버룰이야 담인데 지 가르쳐다 파더두산에 양도 가버는데 통이 있는데 왜 유시고 드레시 요인은 신의 다시 한번 주도를 배나가서 지딘배 소남시에 신뢰 시합인다나 이러봐.
Now, I'm not saying that we all need to do exactly what Milarepa said. Actually, if we were to do that, it would be very dangerous. We'd probably all die within a week. There's a threshold that we have to recognize, and so there's a way of doing this, and you have to realize what the threshold for being able to act like that is. But basically, as it is said, we should not put aside the larger aims for small projects. And so in order to do something big, we need to actually give up and forget about the little things that might distract this. And so then until we reach that greater aim that we have, we must not let ourselves get distracted by all the various little different things that might come up, because they're not so beneficial. They would make it difficult. And so for that reason, it's important for us to keep our minds on the larger aims and not worry about the smaller things. And then the electricity has let us know that it is time for tea.
다드네 가르세디 뒤치섬도 뒤서 코 토마메는데 튀로 사디 다 코알라 코아 타메버 자와디 이노 순두산에 지당들 코알이야 타유메사들 시주 망보르지온디 아래 다들이야 때네 전주토베 르제 케밀렘바 때네 전주토베 르제 케밀렘베 칸사디 즈기 심제 탐지라 다 유런신이리 예 갈게 드바존도 롱 예상게 들렌 주도 롱 주소 창상게 저 시어다 주소 창상什么的 디데기 왕기 지리 상 개규메베 꺄 미롱와 개규메베 심지지 여 말때 이나 가사르니 징외는 베베 주스사 마지했나 되니 고알타요 말했어 라블라 베나 고아 타진에스 아들이 주사 질 다텔래야 질 고알타 타네스 질 고알타 타베 유젠데 심진기 고카르에 장가디 치수메베 두르지미 두사네 디균셀 데네 에네 고아 디두베 고아 동르레스 아르비치다 다드리지 셰드가 하우샤레스 다 이미네 간사 게르소소는 주구주베이나 그런다 저시 아르비다지 간 저시 기자 카마르바 저시 기자 마르바 간다 따다 봉구다데 키단데 졸레반 주주베이나 간사 게르 질 주주베이나 안 탐지산 장애다 결혼 서머네 다 가시 결혼 장애 많이 양 가시기 장애 결혼다 장애 된시 인사 다들 망고지 언더 다들서 시험하지
Now the text reads, when did this confusion originate? This confusion originated in beginningless samsara. So here the question is whether there is an end to samsara. So generally there are many different explanations of it. Some people explain that there is an end to samsara, and some say that there is no end to samsara. But generally, if we look at it in terms of numbers or of the logic and so forth, generally all sentient beings have the same nature, the Buddha nature. If they are to put the efforts into the path, and if all the causes and conditions are assembled, then it is possible for any sentient being to achieve enlightenment. So they all have the ability to achieve enlightenment or the potential to achieve enlightenment. However, there is really no end to the number of if we think about it in terms of an individual, there is an end to samsara if they put any effort into it. However, if the individual does not put any effort into it, then they will not be liberated from samsara. And so for that reason, it is important for us to put effort into the path in order to liberate ourselves from samsara. So for each individual, there is an end to samsara, but in general terms, then we say that there is no end to samsara because we cannot set a number to the population, the number of sentient beings that there could be. And so for this reason, we say that because we cannot fix a number as to how many sentient beings there are, we cannot say that there is this particular time when samsara will have been emptied. But for any particular individual, we could say for Tashi, or if not even necessarily for Tashi, but for a horse or for a donkey or for a dog, for any of those individuals, then we can talk about them having the potential or the capacity to awaken to Buddhahood.
자세 시왈레게 준수비 쥐어버린 죽을 나로래야 심지어 탐지 팬제 상계 장면 얘기를 다가랑 가서 다가랑기 다가래 다가랑기 네바디 소위 주마 유르도 다들이 주사 랑기 매주 마세나 상계 장면 내사를 예 상계 장면이 폐사를 다이는 폐스미냐 어느 랑게 레기 예버사라도 매주 마세바 람람 베바 마세베 디 균zen 때네 아니 다다버 디 카르 소위 주마 유도스 아던도 고 상계 토메 의세 되어시 기신 매주 체위나 상계 토야 예버디야 실수 비저번 주변나 가르수 말아서는 디신 스부르 간 가사디 대다 준비 돕게나 저주 토고라메 토스 드네 인두산에다 정부 샤랑 정부의 샤랑다 봉화라서 봐 대다 탐지경 대고 매주 체비나 나 매주 체서 다 쿠란즈데 응어스도 매주 체하면 다 이미네 쿠란 망발해야다 뭐 매주를 체비나 대다 탐지경 라메 셔주 또 두레스 아들이 소유이 다 조데 다 베바체나 퀄타 유에스 말보다 지단기 미겔 주주비나 퀄타 아레스 대한타 유주대야 간에서 다스 기가르에 뒤주지를 리디스하는 상으로 전도 알아 진짜지 뒤주지 내야 말해 다들 조데 무슨 매주 체비나 퀄타 들으시죠
Shantideva said in the way of the Bodhisattva that there have been countless Buddhas who have appeared in the past, but I still have not achieved awakening, and this is because of not putting effort into it. And so it's a question of whether we put effort into it or not. There have been uncountable Buddhas who have appeared in the past. They have all appeared, but because of, we could say, not having a good karmic connection or not putting effort into it, we are still remaining in samsara. We have not freed ourselves from it. But if we do put effort into it, then we can liberate ourselves. As it also says in the way of the Bodhisattva, if all the insects and parasites and so forth, if they put some effort into it, they can awaken to enlightenment as well. And so if they were to put the effort into it, now of course an insect or a parasite or something may not be able to actually put in effort right now, but if in the future they do begin to put effort into the path, then they will be able to awaken to enlightenment. And so it's in terms of whether we put effort into it or not that determines whether they're the end to samsara. Now, and so for each individual, if they put effort into it, then there is an end to samsara. But the manner in which there is an end to samsara is not like there is a clock ticking and you get to a certain time on the clock and then samsara is over for you. It's more a question of if you put effort into it, then you can liberate yourself from samsara.
대단한 코안디 추바 인로섬 동에 체제담 윤기리로섬 랑주메로 대달라베 뒤지린이 손데 라메기 천주 지도는 배살 대달은 배발은 지구 셰나 dom네 유단 땡다 겐단 탑던 지부치레 라메 천주 지도 런데는 기시버저 셰바데 라메기 천주 대 유단 대주베 땡게 가서 대주발래 그위 겐다 대주베 탑다 대주베 지부다 대주내기 틀레는 셰거바오.
And so, as it says here, understand that samsara is confusion. Understand how much suffering is there. Understand how long it endures. Understand that there is no self-liberation. Therefore, from today onward, you should make as much effort as possible to achieve unsurpassable enlightenment. What manner of things are needed in order to make this kind of effort? The summary, the primary cause, working basis, contributory cause, method, result, and activities. All discriminating beings should understand that these six comprise the general explanation of unsurpassable enlightenment. So the primary cause of unsurpassable enlightenment, the person who is working basis for the achievement of enlightenment, the contributory causes that encourage one in practice, the method of practice, the result that is accomplished, and the activities ensuing from accomplishment. These are the topics that one should understand.
대다른 버대만 균이 신이 뭐 때는 미루를 지죠. 깨네 계획 신이 탐니테에 당하되 지부 조상계이고 칠레 도면으로 된지 제반은 이노 디남기니 류 넘버 남샤 템바점 이노.
To explain them in order, the primary cause is the essence of the well-gone one, or Buddha nature. As a working basis, the precious human life is excellent. The contributory cause is the spiritual master. The method is the spiritual master's instructions. The result is the body of perfect Buddhahood. The activities are benefiting sentient beings without conceptual thought. These 6 topics form the body of this text.
다른 예라 예버체도 대라당 균 니시 님보데 샤바네 오나 코어 추베를 인딜리 죄네 라메 이치주 토게바티 다자라 소바 가사 멤버다기 베바체게 토버 장 유런냐나 베베주네 전주 치디미도데 다자라 소베 심제 탐제라 상기기 유 디신시비님보 예베치로.
Now the limbs will be explained in detail, and so the first is the primary cause. The primary cause is the essence of the well-gone one. We need to attain unsurpassable enlightenment by freeing ourselves from the confused state of samsara. But is it possible for inferior persons like ourselves to attain enlightenment even if we make the effort? Why wouldn't we attain enlightenment if we made the effort? All sentient beings, including ourselves, already possess the primary cause for enlightenment, the essence of the well-gone one.
대다야 딩인지게면 돌에 디시니윈 루군 용라 캬 제 송소 노냥엘레 디중 레장 심제 탐제네 디시시위 닝부진 이노 셰다 도데 냥엘레 대바 첨보 레장 오말라 마르기 차버 네수 대신 디시시위 닝부갸 심제 탐제레 캬버 네수 셰다 도데 겔레갸 디신이네 탐제레 캬버 메갸 다규 디시신이 대신 루군 대닝부진 셰 송소.
As it is stated in the King of Samadhi Sutra, the essence of Buddha nature pervades all beings. The lesser Parinirvana Sutra says all sentient beings have the nature of the Buddha. And also the Sutra, the Great Parinirvana says, for example, as butter permeates milk, likewise Buddha nature pervades all sentient beings. And in the Ornament Mahayana Sutras, it reads, even though this is not different for any being, one is called the Tathagata when it is fully purified. Therefore, all beings are of its essence.
어떤 된저비기 못들려. 나 세신을 지로 민자와다 그거 용디가 아래디 다 가시지 사면섬기 사베 아다 가진 진del이야 응외지야로다 나다 하나씩 가시기 고랑 동니 고랑 동상 메가 섬으로다 동니 고랑 되는 지시비 님불에 응외지야로다 가시기 다 심준이 뉴메셈 몇살에 이시 고랑 되는 지시비기 님비기 친실을 응외지야로 다들의 친신근지도 망보십시오 근데 아래 다 간다 유연의 요래다 네 간다 되지 상계하기 왜 유르지 유라 유루 들리아디스 아시즈미라 루스마도 베게 다 당의 권수문은 신 오말레 오마 쪼니 만 중요한 예버디 그런 규제를 당번내고 요돼야 그래서 당번에 뒤 오마 쪼니 만 중요한 규제들 매비나 오마 지점 쪼바이나 말이야 추지점 쪼바이나 말이야 같이 쪼네 맞쪼네 되는 신기 그런 규제를디人신기다 상대버 섬으로 규제를다 상계야 규제를다 또 나도도 규제를디 아 저래야 요래서
Now, with this Buddha nature, this is there are many different ways of identifying exactly what it actually is. Some say that it is the seed of the pure mind. Will say that it is the emptiness, the no negation. Some will say that it is the nature of the mind, the dharmata of the mind, or the luminous wisdom, and that is Buddha nature. And so, in this way, there are many different ways that we can explain, or that we can try to identify what it is. But in any case, there's something there. We all have the cause or the potential for Buddhahood. They're just different ways that it can be explained. And so, as just mentioned, it is like butter. It is like the butter in milk. If there were no fat that could be made into butter, then you could churn the milk as much as you want, but you would never get any butter out of it. But since there is fat in the milk, then you can churn the milk and you will get the butter out of the milk. And so likewise, there is that cause or that potential for Buddhahood that is present within all sentient beings.
워나 균센지 체레 심전 상계 님부지 인샤나 추구 동리기 심전 탐절이 캬베치다 추니 디신이를 야와메베치다 심전 탐절을 리게베치다 되는 균스 수미에베 심전 상계 님부지 인데 대한 유라말레 조상군의 저기 디신이 메지다 리유치나 리진군 다도 상계 님부지 셰 송소 될라 아무 추구 동리기 심전을 캬베치바나 상계는 추구인은 추군 동이 디 셈제 탐제를 캬베 치나요 셈제 상계님 뭐지 체임바오 춘이 디진이래 야면 뭐샤바네 상계 춘이 상계 디진이데 셈제기 디진이래 상해남 치종함 토메기 야 셈제 탐 상계님 뭐지 임바오 셈제 탐제를 제바네 셈제남 상계 예리 남방아르네리 강시나 dom네 리제레 담앙야레 니드레 다랑게 티버시비르진 니에 상게리진 두시아바오.
By what reasoning can it be shown that sentient beings have Buddha nature? Because all sentient beings are pervaded by the emptiness of Dharmakaya, because there are no differentiations in the nature of suchness, and because all beings have a family. For these three reasons, all sentient beings are of the Buddha nature. The Shastra says, because the perfect form of the Buddha pervades, because there are no distinctions within suchness, and because all are in a family, all sentient beings are always the essence of enlightenment. To explain the first reason, all sentient beings are pervaded by the emptiness of Dharmakaya means that the ultimate Buddhahood is the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is all-pervading emptiness, and emptiness pervades all sentient beings. Therefore, all sentient beings are of Buddha nature. Saying there is no differentiations in the nature of suchness means that the suchness of the Buddha is identical to the suchness of sentient beings. None is better or worse, none is bigger or smaller, none is higher or lower. So because of that, all sentient beings are of the Buddha nature. All beings have a family means that all sentient beings can be categorized into the 5 families of the Buddha. What are they? The summary, the disconnected family, the indefinite family, the hearer family, the solitary realizer family, and the Mahayana family. These are the 5 families of the Buddha.
다들래야 추구 동리기 스타 탐제를 캬베 치사들라. 다 동리기 캬바다 추니 다데조 동리기 캬바다 추니 디시 야메베 균센디 소베나 심제점도 마서 분발라. 베나 드레이 두산 분바담제게 보지에는 주었어. 다가 상자여베사서 용시 다드린 주산에 다 조디 셈제라 동니들 추니 디신이 예배왕게 인도네 상계규여봐. 분발라 어디단 동니 캡세난다도 분배런신 동번이 대마저버에데 임베냐 오라 뱀보 인자 코랑코랑 또로 많이 미치나 되네 상계 있는 뭐지 많이 사는다도 다 상계 유명사는다도 되지 과 시야로 좀 요하레스.
Now, when we say that the Dharmakaya emptiness pervades all sentient beings, and we say that emptiness pervades everything. We say that the Dharmata, the nature, pervades all sentient beings. Well, then when we think about that, we might think, well, what about vases and so forth? A vase is also emptiness, and so and it is also pervaded by emptiness. So wouldn't it therefore also and be able to awaken to Buddhahood? So we might possibly think this, but when we talk about the emptiness of sentient beings, we say that sentient beings have the emptiness nature, the dharmata nature, and so they are able to awaken to Buddhahood. But with a vase is of course pervaded by emptiness. The nature of a vase is empty. It is emptiness. It is not established as true, but it is by nature it is material, and so for that reason it does not have Buddha nature.
다 간다량 다 니가리아 르시기리 숨베 가리아 르시기리 딜이야 아저 라라 도 가상 도디 갱 나로려야 라라 지두니에 쭝게 라라 까베셔남 군두주 라라 타르바체든 겨와메 까부 멤버에 유다테스 다 이제 돈다 르시기리야 다 다축 세난다도 다간다 넘버 2 스파 샤브데 다 디나는 조디 까부 멤버에 유다테스 두산 다 때네 상계규메에 가사르지 디디지 예바지다 숭규예비미레 다 이미네 갑딜이야 때네 상계규메에 가사지 예바 숭바디 대주 타로르 무지 갱거 공부 저거 디나쿠라 세우순 아래 간다라야 다 간다르 가주 지기 이와사난다도 간사기 예외 다 개발 중세 가르소레 전주 두발랑 고로와이바다 전주 두가와 된데라 고네 멤발랑 가르 개발에 송도와 내가 도안에 되는지 리시에 인데 뭔데 알았어.
We talk about the first of the different families. There's the disconnected family, or the family that is not able to achieve enlightenment. And so, what Acharya Asanga said about this in the ornament of the sutras, he said, even if they see the suffering and faults of vicious samsara, they are not moved. Even when they hear of all the great qualities of the Buddha, they have no faith, they have no modesty, no thought for what others might think, no compassion at all, and do not experience even a single regret when they commit not virtuous actions. Those who maintain these 6 attributes have no chance to work toward enlightenment. And so when we read about this disconnected family and these attributes, we might think that these are individuals who will never achieve enlightenment, never achieve Buddhahood. But even though it does say that in some treatises, here that is not the intent, what is meant here in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. It's not the final thought of the jewel ornament. Basically, what it means is that there are some differences in the family, but these slight differences are more related to the length of time in which it will take to achieve enlightenment and the difficulty with which one will achieve enlightenment. And so in this case, it is a question of calling something that is inferior the lack of potential.
다 간다는 리체 달라 리체기 링네 강다 체메 뭔가서메 니지메 발서 진이 중대도 하면서 통해 숨마다 때 지게도 거의 뛰어넘도 저 중세메 상계윤대 되게 되버 중세메 체명 와서메 뉴지 중세메 리발하버 저런 저 중세메 매중 좀 상계 개발메 제 숨모 너데 개내가 라라치도 녀바 그래서 라라치도 녀바 인자만 오야 라라치도 녀바 정에 라라 깔베처럼 근도 라라 타바셔도 겨 까바 멤버에 유대데 셰송소 라 따다다데 메르시도 숨바데야 코어 유린도 코어라 공바인지 때네 천주 믿도 바나마인 베버신 디게 천주 토바 이노 대달의 니지 빼막가빈도를 군가고 가데 심지 냥엘에다 깨바 멤버시 상계를 미네 타는 매도지 난걸라 토나야 대냥엘에다 드부지 인데 냥엘에다 레와다 양엘 데베 태도 방에 마오셰 송소 망에 베리진의 깨라라 레바진데 간다 니투기 계획신인 때마 니투기 초보당 조바당 조밤 니투기 너데 토나 니투엘레 데 니투기 리수 니투 송엄버 조 줄라 대시도 랑겔람 티신 깨나다 테나 랑겔라 티버침을 침보버 조와 대다이는 니투기 리는 간다 코알은 직바 양엘레 데발라 대바 니지 추와 대다이는 지게도 고여동에 돈은 양에 되는 엄버 대 심지어 되려미가 당순 때문에 니들이 지에 송소 라사기 게리니 간다 다 대순기 디동아 예셔 로벤상의 집으로 왼발라가 대다디 지게도 시베교시 양에 대발 대라죠 이지수지 라브랑아 예시 로벤상 집으로 놀라가 케베랑 예네 수시버자 랑게리 수시버지 예송소 니랑 그 리티니 티버티니 레쇼니 라랑 집부터 양에 대고 뭐마이노 어나 디제 대다 제대로 내나 머리비 바자기 살아되는 사매 사범의 레기 이기런식이 루소는 내서 그러니까 대해서 사범의 띵지 tel라 양엘레바 이노냐베 두시기 내바 이노 원한 양엘레바 뭐미는 좀 된디 람트니 때바 미리시나 리디 빼난 좀 빌리는 총바다 치이가서 누구 로버지 랜더 droala 바가서 dro고 바 첨보로 녜시 체네 다가 누구 밀려냠데 치르도번 교환나나 대변 신비 주주기 종결전부 직대 주는 예수 주바다 심진님도 저 상기 이시 퇴는 안데 상기 주반데 뇌모소 다가 민주수념의 민주방 치르도바 나올라 년도기 남진이 되는 예랑 공부하는 예수를 주고 이노
So the disconnected family. First, what does disconnected family mean? It refers to those who have the 6 traits, such as no concern for what others think, no modesty, no compassion, and so forth. The great Asanga said it in this way: even if they see the suffering and faults of vicious samsara, they are not moved. Even when they hear of all the great qualities of the Buddha, they have no faith. They have no modesty, no thought for what others may think, no compassion at all, and do not experience even a single regret when they repeatedly commit non-virtuous actions. Those who maintain these 6 attributes have no chance to work toward enlightenment. This is also explained in the ornament of Mahayana Sutra. There are some who only commit non-virtuous actions. There are some who consistently destroy positive qualities. There are some who lack the virtue which leads to liberation. So those who have insufficient virtue do not possess the cause of enlightenment. Generally, it is said that those who have these attributes constitute the disconnected family. They will wander in samsara for a long time, but this does not mean that they will never achieve enlightenment. If they made the effort, eventually they would achieve enlightenment. The Buddha said in the White Lotus Sutra, Ananda, if a sentient being who otherwise had no chance to achieve enlightenment would visualize the Buddha in space and toss a flower to that image, the result would bring that being to enlightenment. Eventually that person would achieve enlightenment, so for him nirvana is attainable. Indefinite family, the second. The nature of the indefinite family depends upon contributory conditions. If they attend a hearer spiritual master, associate with hearer friends, or study the different hearer texts or the listener texts, then those persons will awaken in the listener family. They will study and follow that path and become part of the listener family. Likewise, if these people meet with a Pratyeka Buddha or a Mahayana master, then respectively they'll become part of the Pratyeka Buddha or the Mahayana family. The listener family. The family of listeners consists of those who feared samsara and yearn to achieve nirvana but have little compassion. It has been said, one who is afraid upon seeing samsara yearns to achieve nirvana but has little interest in benefiting sentient beings. These 3 are the marks of the hearer family. The solitary realizer family, or Pratyeka Buddha family. The Pratyeka Buddha family includes those who possess the 3 above attributes and in addition are arrogant, keeping their master secret, and prefer to stay in solitary places. It has been said, fear at the thought of samsara, yearning for nirvana, little compassion, arrogance, secretive about their teachers, and enjoying solitude. A wise one should understand that these are the marks of the Pratyeka Buddha family. So these 2 families, the listeners and Pratyeka Buddhas, engage in their respective vehicles. And even though they achieve the results of their practices, these results are not the final nirvana. How do they abide when they achieve their results? They may in unafflicted states of meditation and concentration. But those states are based on the psychic imprint of ignorance. Since their meditative concentrations are unafflicted, they believe they have achieved nirvana and remain in that way. If their states are not the final nirvana, then one might argue that the Buddha should not have taught these 2 paths. Is there a reason the Buddha should teach these paths? Yes. For example, suppose great merchants from this Jambudvipa are traveling the ocean searching for jewels. After many months at sea in some desolate place, they becoming completely tired and exhausted and think there is no way to get the jewels now. When they feel discouraged and prepare to turn back, the merchant captain manifests a huge island through his miracle power and lets all his followers rest there. After a few days, when they are fully rested and relaxed, the captain says, "We have not achieved our goal. Now we should go farther and get our jewels." Similarly, sentient beings without courage are frightened when they hear about the Buddha's wisdom. They believe attaining Buddhahood is great hardship and think, "I have no ability to do this." There are other people who are not interested in entering the path or who enter the path but turn back. To counter these problems, the Buddha presented the two paths and thus allows them to rest in these states.
나 내주산데 우먼주베 나로래야 베 된테데 숨바 제실케바는 무시엘린도 계베 계속이 체베 계속이 나와니스 총계 용바도 남브라커바 따 쾌기 티반데 로마니 얼치 수레 이 자신 왜라 로장 로스 남라 로스 숨바는 신기 나라 도디 빼만 가베 나로래야 나리나다 년도에 잠제 베나 년도기 냥데 관계 냥데 다되고 냥에 대바 레스서 다디가리아 안디나 롱타만나시 년도에 잠제기 냥에 대바 타만 두시게래데 니가나 자외 숨베기 냥데 터도와 미네베 냥데데 고스토야 말 제상 너디 빼마 가보베 체마르 치디 왕자버르 체비미나 데네 냥기 냥데 치니바 뭐이바 냥데 치니바이나 미네베 냥데 인거바 다들이 인주산에 디준셀 때네 가르웨지 땅마이나 다 자와체바인 상와체 냥에 토바인 송 다데 디갑리아다 상게 도디베마 가빈나 상게의 제주서부터 룰린나베걸레아티니 셰리부드즈여치 셰리부기 디바다티 상가를 겹치 다 가서 상게서마다 다 기저비체네 제주산에 다 냥데베 터 냥데 토요 말았을때 한르지 레제 라다데 터도 냥데 토번 두시야 다 토요 말았을때 안에 컨디슈니 레슨지 바도 바지 컨디슈네 되네 아니 자베 신이바스라 네 냥데 오마디 네 미네베 냥 스시니를 미네베 냥에 데바 레스 아니 그라운드기다 지 토베 냥에 데바 디 아니 냥데 딱바버스나 다도 아디 베디 다다 공도 숨바는 시르제 베네 자술링도 노블랭가르두산에 자수들 다 노블랭가르두산 랑가라 가르주 칼레 시부지 알았어 칼레 시부지에 인사 되게 되네 대변인데 다 대변 되게 되네 링도 쭈니 샤샤라 스타비게 게리 쭈니 샤샤두산 아나 고도직 렙서 텔레야 디스 랑가라 예수를 겹체 당 예수 잡네 안 단도 못이네 다 가르는 줄 알아 나들이 쟤네 딱 당분에베 시부지 가르 냥을 대바 미네베 냥을 대바 대샤나 에네 미망고지 가르 로라 메숑바 단 juk minuba 다 진지기 거 뽑아 shum주게 인두산 진지리야 람라 녜소 더비치 녜소 장서럽 들이야 아니 다 년두기 냥데 랑게 냥데 시시 이제 때마래 마도베기 냥데 타르토와 냥데 치니바디 마레스 냥데 치니바디 다 상게 공바사는 다도 미네베 냥데서는 다 스시니를 미네베 냥데 고레스
And so this is something that is also mentioned in the Chandrakirti's entering the way of entering the Madhyamaka Avatara. And so it says, for this reason that it is like the wise people who emanate a precious island in order to give people rest. nirvana of the listeners and of the Pratyeka Buddhas is not the authentic emptiness, but rather it is a place to rest before moving along. And this is also something that was described in the White Lotus Sutra. So in the White Lotus Sutra, at one point the Buddha described the nirvana of the listeners and the Pratyeka Buddhas as being nirvana and being a true nirvana. But then later he said that it was not the ultimate nirvana, and that the nirvana of the listeners and the Pratyeka Buddhas was not the actual nirvana. The actual nirvana is the non-abiding nirvana. That is the nirvana that does not abide in either existence or in peace. Now, the Buddha had previously said that the nirvana of the listeners and the solitary realizers had been nirvana. Now he's saying it's not. And so they're in the midst of that great crowd of bodhisattvas and people listening. Then Shariputra got up to ask us questions. You could say he maybe pushed his way to the front or something. But in brief, he asked a question, and he said, "I'm amazed to hear that the nirvana of the listeners in the Pratyeka Buddhas is not the ultimate nirvana, and so how can this work?" And he asked this three times. And in reply, the Buddha said that the actual authentic nirvana is the nirvana that is non-abiding nirvana, the nirvana that does not abide in either existence or in peace. And the nirvana that you, the hearers and Pratyeka Buddhas, have achieved is more of a nominal nirvana. And so here, this is just like the example that was given before about going to a treasure island to get jewels. It's extremely difficult to do that. It's very hard to go. And so the captain, who's very skilled and knowledgeable, then magically emanates this island, and everyone gets to go there, they rest, and then they feel good, and then finally they continue along their way. And so similarly, when we talk about nirvana, if we were to think that nirvana were necessarily the non-abiding nirvana, the state of Buddhahood, then it's a very difficult state for people to understand, and they might not even be able to conceive of it, and so then they get discouraged and wouldn't do it. And so in order to give a resting spot for people, the Buddha also taught about the nirvana of the listeners and the Pratyeka Buddhas. Now, is that the ultimate, the actual nirvana? It is not. The actual authentic nirvana is the state of Buddhahood, the non-abiding nirvana, the nirvana that does not abide in either existence or in peace.
Tamje bema kabale kya. Tishi nyendo tamje kya. Nyanghe de du shi de yawe sumba de dal nyanghe ma de denge so she sunsu. Semje de da nyarang ko ba do nge so ba tishi shi be kene. Teta sange drupalo guwa, tena chidara guwa na, kusundo yi guwa yin, tuki yu sir chewe nyerang, yi ki lu jen, teta la rikwa samji, same ki tingin zile sevar chel. Tena guwa na wadi sungi dege do, gyalong ta, ke te samji chawa chaba mayi, chaba chaba mayi, che ki nyangele deba mayin de, gyalong ta, tani tishin shivu, ke tishin shivu la nyewar, gyurji tue shi, to shi ji guwa wa, teni, tamche pekala tsu che de yang sungpa genlong che cha tishiri nge disab kini nyangay midade kecha tamche kimbi ishi chi sudru labshin tenpa kebar che tamche kimbi ishi tabar yu she sung so tedar kuwe nyerang teta teni chanshu chenpo sim kede keba padu mewa chanshu simbi chepa che ne tsangya wa yino papa langar shibin do le ya te shindu she la tamche pekar le ya nyendo teta nyangay mande de teta 전주 제발합제는 년도에 니다 탐제 상계 유시에 순서 티버신비리니 지도부 시나 domne 야왕 온남라다 신의 개발주의 나바다다 된로 티버신비리 뒤서 시바데 텔러지기 야와는 니데人性 내베데 양다버 주베리소 rig 대다 수수용 어체발라 담버런신 내베리니 상계 큐지비 누바 통매메비 뒤진 춘이게 토바오 양다버 주베리 rig니 상계 규집이 누방 응계에서 컴퓨터처럼 토바 대고 대답 남바니가 상기 깨바지 이노.
As is said in the White Lotus of Sublime Dharma Sutra, likewise all the listeners think they have achieved nirvana, but they have not achieved the final nirvana revealed by the Buddha. They are only resting. When these listeners and Pratyeka Buddhas are well rested in those states, the Buddha understands this and encourages them to awaken to Buddhahood. How do Buddhas encourage them? They awaken them through their body, speech, and wisdom mind. Through their wisdom mind means that light radiates through the Buddha's wisdom and touches the mental of the listeners and Pratyeka Buddhas. As soon as the light reaches them, they arise from their unafflicted, undefiled meditations. Then the Buddha appears physically in front of them. With his speech, he says, "O you bhikshus, you have not finished your deeds. You have not finished all that you are supposed to do. Your experience of nirvana is not the final nirvana. Now all you bhikshus have to work toward enlightenment. You should attain the realization of the Buddha." From the White Lotus of Sublime Dharma Sutra, it says in verse form, "You monks, today I declare you have not achieved the final nirvana. In order to achieve the primordial wisdom of the Omniscient One, you must cultivate great perseverance. Through that you will achieve the wisdom of the Omniscient One." Being motivated by the Buddha in this way, these listeners and Pratyeka Buddhas cultivate bodhicitta. They practice the Bodhisattva's path for many countless kalpas and eventually achieve enlightenment. The Gantalanka Sutra relates the same thing. Also, the White Lotus of Sublime Dharma Sutra says, "These hearers have not achieved nirvana. By thoroughly practicing the Bodhisattva's path, they will achieve Buddhahood." Fifth is the Mahayana family. What kind of family is the Mahayana? The summary, the classification, definitions, synonyms, reason it is superior to other families, causal characteristics, and marks. These six comprise the Mahayana family. The classification. This family has two classifications, the naturally abiding family and the perfectly workable family. B, the definition. Second is the explanation of the respective essences of these individuals. The naturally abiding family has, from beginningless time, had the potential to develop to all the Buddha's qualities through suchness. The perfectly workable family has the potential to achieve all the Buddha's qualities through the power of habituating themselves to root virtue. Thus both have the chance to achieve enlightenment.
안에 숭단디 어느 거지 가수에 사댕한 라소바네베 숭주르디 다치심버다 베나 러시니리디소 사베암 뉴바 델리앙 지나야레 다임비네 원수베 가수에 다 델리하고 저바르 망고용되기 있으래 러시니리딘 사베암 뉴버르 링지잖아 인규 리차로 리사로 다 얘기 간다르 저바르 망고 유스레 다 주시에 뭐지 다 간다야 나 지기 남자네 리시게 자 사회시게 자 감시게 자人시시게 자오 리시에 개발도 파베 윤제네 니라남니 기리니 멤버인데 녀모 베 드바 상황선지 리 넘버 타번 유 치로 대과시베리니 초이 드바 니샤르 창에 rig number taban yuwe chiro sta da nyerang ke nyande de nyomo be nyangene debe chine nyomo be jibe nyangene debe chane ane nyangde yas tiwa shimbyu nyande de nyushi jiba nige chane number chawe china da gandara ko karshuya nyangde kebardo phawa da dinde yongde yusre.
Now here in talking about this, it is being presented here as described in the 5 different works of Asanga. It's just literally the same as presenting, and in particular the way the naturally abiding family is presented. If you talk about how it's identified here, there are many debates about this. If you say that it's like a seed that then gets larger, then doesn't it also become the developing family or the perfectly workable family as described here? And so there's no need to describe these debates in detail now. But the text continues. The synonyms of Buddha nature are potential, seed, sphere element, and the natural mode of abiding. The superiority is the listeners and Prateka Buddha families are inferior by virtue of the fact that they fully purify their families by dispelling all the obscurations of the afflictions. The Mahayana is superior because it purifies its family by dispelling the two obscurations, afflictions as well as the subtle obscurations to omniscience. Therefore, the Mahayana family is superior and unsurpassed. And so here, in general, the nirvana of the listeners and the Prateka Buddhas is merely the elimination of the afflictions, the afflictive obscurations, and that is presented as one type of nirvana. But the nirvana of the Mahayana is the elimination of both the afflictive and the cognitive obscurations, and so that, for that reason, it is a superior type of nirvana.
다텔래야 티버 준비 어다 대나 티버 준비 리 탐제리 개발도 봐발라나 멤버 이노스 다 티버 준비 리텔래야 릭세버지 릭마세버니 릭이 남바네 릭세버도 마세버들 릭세버네 드부양도 드부시차데 다미보 릭마세버네 드부양도 드부시차데 다마미보 와나 릭디 겐치 세버 주시는 개외 겐단네 제 튠비 겐기시나 ne riksabar nyu tele dona rik misabar ne telang gawe kenshi ne mikumbar ne ba tang pha me ba da lobar shuwa da jibe ne ba os
Therefore, the Mahayana family is superior and unsurpassed. The causal characteristics. The causal characteristics of the family are described as awakened and unawakened. The awakened family has achieved the perfectly, and the signs are very obvious. The unawakened family has not achieved the fruit perfectly, and its mark is not obvious. What would cause this family to awaken? This family can awaken through freedom from unfavorable contributory causes and through the support of favorable conditions. If the opposites occur, then they cannot awaken. There are four unfavorable conditions: being born in an unfavorable circumstances, being careless about enlightenment, entering into wrong conditions, and being heavily shrouded by the obscurations.
전주세베게 퍼르드심버 주기 릭세베 다 예신 개바 다 전주세베 사나로래도 송샤 나도 세고유서 릭세베 다 예신 개바 십증 차와 아 예바시 송샤 퍼르드심버 주수수수기 릭세베 다 예신 개바 송샤 나도 견과에 있으래.
Now, the sign about whether the family has been awakened or not, these signs have been described in the Bodhisattva Bhumis by Asanga. And in this, it describes in great detail the signs of the awakening of each of the six transcendences or paramitas. And so for each of these, the different signs are explained at great length and in great detail. These are something that we should come to know.
이나라 개외 겐시 숨베걸이야 이노르지 개외 겐시 숨베걸레 미콤버 개와다 배망부지나 박자 매버사지 지셔 박자 매버사디 이게 노르 눈에 지나 파 매버사디 레디 임베냐 타르겐이 폐체에 나로라 파 매버들 박자 매버시지 지셔다 이디 이거 맞아.
Now, here actually, in the description of the four unfavorable conditions, there is a typographical error in most of the editions of this. And so it's, including in this translation I'm reading from, it's that most of the editions say that they have no habitual tendency toward enlightenment, but that they have no bhakcha, no habitual tendency for enlightenment. But actually what it should read is that they are careless about enlightenment, they're bhakmeba. So this is a typographical error in most editions of and translations of the jewel ornament of liberation. What it should actually say is that they are careless about enlightenment.
그런 년토의 사이 나라고 세버시 소아 개버 소아 다들이야 유순두서 유시디마 순두산에 다 미홈버 개바스 되네 파면시고 년사 나노의 세버시다 여기 제시진 마순여비 인두산에 디준zen데 다디 하고 다디 제시 담모시.
And the reason that we know that this is a mistake is because this same point is covered in Asanga's Shravaka Bhumi, the stages of the listeners. And so in that text, it also describes each of the four conditions in great the four unfavorable conditions in great detail, and it explains this particular carelessness in great detail. So we do not need to go into such detail today.
대란 가외 계신 미공백 개와도 파다든 된 사라. 아니 리기 다니 전주선배 릭선버제베 세마의 지게도 추주변 도래 전주선발로는 이르니 세마다라 도알레는 메시 추기알는 추이니시 소모더보 와나 세마치더 버시는 년볼로 마도 류가 전신기 장바다 심유규 시에쇼와도 심제라 잠시 강화다 이노 대들 추주변도래 미습 라와마이라 요다 균이 남라바 심진글라라도 대리 전주선배 이시 송소.
So continuing, the two favorable conditions are the outer condition of a teacher and the inner condition of a mind with a proper desire for the precious Dharma and so forth. The marks of this family are the signs which indicate the Bodhisattva family. The 10 Noble Bhumi Sutra says, the family of wise bodhisattvas can be recognized by its signs just as fire is known by its smoke and water is known by water birds. In that case, what kind of signs are there? Their bodies and speech are naturally gentle without dependence upon a remedy. Their minds are less deceitful, have loving kindness and clarity towards sentient beings. Thus, the 10 Noble Bhumi Sutra says, no harshness or arrogance, avoiding all deceit and cunning, having a clear, loving attitude towards all sentient beings, this is a bodhisattva.
다들 추주변 도난디 미습 라와마 인사디 미습 사다 가라서나 디 롱전에 가라서나 류지 처슈기 죄바 죄람다 태와 류디 처슈기 죄람 서버데 류기 가르르 죄람디 처슈암 죄바 와이런스 서머베 채와던데 죄바 다 태외 차네 미수바 데네 nga 칙주도 민데바 기 차네 라와마이 바사데 nga를 칙주모로 지 약과서 생해서 바로사 생해서 데 안담 라야르바 와다 딘데기 렁치 랑바 마이바 딘데 토네 안다라 룽아니 런식이 인잠바 데네 유주 방발라 소바다 탐제네 다 셈기 윤데 바레 디 두스타네 다 미습 랑와마이다 사데기 조 룽아기 윤데 룽아 시신잠바 임바 된거 알아서.
Now, in this citation from the 10 Noble Bhumi Sutra, it says, no harshness or arrogance. When we talk about harshness here, what we mean is harshness of the body. What it means is that we don't have any overly harsh activities to the body. It means that we give up harmful actions with the body. And then no arrogance refers to not speaking badly or speaking harshly to others by telling them to eat crap or anything, or saying the various things like that. So these primarily talk about naturally taming our body. And then from there on, abiding all deceit and cunning, and so forth, these primarily talk about the qualities of the mind. So generally what this means is that we need to have a peaceful and tame body and speech.
야나 교와 지지 인원은 심제를 인지기와 티워치비 쉐를 매와다 가와치를 지민념 쉐와다 버리듯이 심베는 시기에서 안도 쉐와 대단 노디진 저병원도 인지 매바다는 쉐와다 개와야는 쉐와를 리기다서 쉐버지에 송소 대단한 링하고 대래 티워치비 예반에 상기 예외주의는 연도들한 상기 예르게 다르 상기 토변에 링외주의는 릭망에반에 하지 예외주 하지 링외주 이는 릭체베르게 유리원을 공부하면 때네 보면 신도는 유인 심지를 릭테나 위에 비치나 이제 사게 뭐지 이노 대 유제스 심지 탐제라 사게 있는 부여 버 땐도
In other words, whatever preparatory actions a bodhisattva undertakes, he always cultivates compassion for all sentient beings, has a great inclination toward the Mahayana teachings, and no hesitation to endure hardships, and perfectly performs the root virtue of the perfections. Thus the ornament of Mahayana Sutra says, developing compassion at the preparation stage, devoted interest, patience, perfectly performing the virtues, these are the signs of the Mahayana family. Thus, of these 5 families, those who are in the Mahayana family are very close to the cause of enlightenment. The listener and Pratika Buddha families will eventually lead to Buddhahood, but the cause is further away and it will take a long time. In the indefinite family, some are close and some will take a long time. The disconnected family is known by Buddhas to wander in samsara for a long time, but this does not mean that they will absolutely not attain Buddhahood. They can attain Buddhahood, but it will take a very long time. Therefore, since all sentient beings belong to one of these families, all sentient beings have Buddha nature. Thus, by the above 3 reasons, it has been demonstrated that all sentient beings have Buddha nature.
Omala mar never said, never you bete, da, conda conto subanazing, Shindo ringwada, then Nyawalas of Tizuki Petizo, da, Corimbeshi, da Drukalak, Mudula dene, da, Muzulia, the Drukalekayova, just a tunjoki, the tele tilly timber level, Druk Lawayova. Yan tilly timber level, Omala marlember, Drulayo, the Degaton and the better the Sumibita. Donna, Tena, Udu, Tubam, Tilla Dimmer to Tubam, Omala Martu to Tubata, Simjela Sanka to Tubaino, Tabesu is in the Tower Music, Gui Liute, Tambo.
Now, furthermore, consider these examples: silver abiding in its ore, oil abiding in a mustard seed, and butter abiding in milk. Now, these are 3 examples which show the cause of being very far away, the far cause, and the near cause. So, the example of silver abiding in its ore is the analogy for the very distant family. Of the oil abiding in a sesame seed is the example for the distant family, and of butter residing in milk, that is an example for the near family. And this is because of the relative difficulty of extracting the silver and so forth. It's very difficult to extract silver from ore. It is a little bit easier to extract the oil from a sesame seed, and it is very easy to churn butter and get milk. And so the difference is in terms of the ease or difficulty with which one can achieve this. And so it's just in relation to each other, these are presented in this way. From silver ore, we can produce silver. From mustard seed, we can produce oil. And from milk, we can produce butter. Likewise, sentient beings can become Buddhas. This is the first chapter dealing with the primary cause from the jewel ornament of liberation, the wish-fulfilling of the noble teachings.
Liu Tambo de Zosong, Arangu Subuniba Zoro, that drain you stand that, Mawusha Shem was said. Judici Nimbus and that, Sangi Nimbuches and that, Takandar Taripena Chashavina, and Sume Gunje, that Karswe, Gamaba, that Chiri Tabuka Yuba, young girls of the Gamaka Yuba. Da long gu has lu yu de chu yun din na le zume gun ju zu ting dam cha de ga de da de ju san da de go ka shu zume gun ju ting dam cha di ka shu ji ka shu da yum zer di ka shu ngaran juen tang che cha wa 다지 야나지 nga 밀랍 senji imba gyunzen den da go de zu xiao mai ba ngui ni su thalia dene chiri dene karso da zambling nangi mi changbor ya zhe ngub ju la zi pume imba de dene de pume la ya ji 최기 파샤 보면 상어요. 쉐를 더 나셔야 되지래. 디토래야 되는 주마대서 임비나. 상기 때문에 지면 가사지 임비두산. 다 상기 때문에 지세주산에 될 때문에 지야가베 차견도 맞서도 고로. 차견 구두산에 다 차견데 라버스미 냠네 차상하고 고와래. 다디 고유의 인두산에 디균셀 때네. 주마 소래데 고디야래. 라 가서 되네지 최저기 구티즈지 인세 대딩의 디수군에 내저비 고급지 피마도나 땡아즈기 논주 아즈기 투슈로지 마도 따디 아즈기 다 가르치지 시진르지 사로 개베다게 따디 가르쳐 안에서로 고가 말에 안에서로지 두부당시에다 사로 따디 아주 시지스게 말보다 아주 논주르죠 아드레 인두산 디규젤 때네 데렉 주메고지 제가 대야 아니 주디신이 모델 저와 아래 가서 잡지 계절을 수만한 시 아주 상계규야 상계규다 간다 차견을 봐서는 내가 안 소리야 나 단독께서 증을 써야잖아 선진 남네 상계 니 여행게 루브르 드메티브스 계자 당보되듯 이 심슈 바라보르도 선진 상계 니 나 니버드시는데 원장 루브르 드메티브스 되네 데즈지 가서 가디나 원장한테 디스 심슈 바라용도 다이나 간다냐 人心细了啊，就得看出个，这没只有嘛的是，这个上街下的细个，啊，人心什么了？的，我是推都起码就嘛到呗，俺是什么那些米沙巴的东什么了的，上街是别的这米沙巴的东西，他是这，怎么你吃了个米说了，两把子吃不差。 상계 울리야 죽돌게 되는 미가지 삼리 나로 좀분이 치러 미드도 지금 고침버로 레바침버로 차로데 되는 시 상계도 레바침버 차로 요소래 삼으로 된데 요소 내 말에 연대 야게 공부도 시바 야나 전시 시기 연대 원도 교바 니 주제샤 애들이 주사네 다 상계 고나네 아나 그럼 뽑아요 다 뭐지 지금 정규민도 지금민도 지승에들다 유샤라 상장 먹어는데 정규민도 지금민도사 가상 당봉에디 얘기다 승무사마래 다 시에투사 말을 짝사는 다사를 빼시 계제 시에听他们 카민도 짝사는 다사를 망시도 다이네에 라야다 상장 먹어는데 마시엔드 상자고나 배주체네 짝사는 다사를 대되는 그거 말이다 나 거지 베즈르 차고래 뽑아 차고를 마도베 아니 상계사 좀 말아 안데 이두산 디균센데네 안디고 가르쳐서 상자고는 다 뽑아채 모두인들이 차고 내다로 차대와래 이두산 디균센데네 안데 가서 쉬어야 되잖아
Well, that finishes off the first chapter, and it more or less finishes off all my physical strength as well. In any case, here we're talking about Buddha nature. In particular, today, talking about it is directly related to this winter Dharma gathering that we are having here. In general, in the Dapo Kaju, and in particular in the Karma Kaju tradition, we have a history of over 900 years, and yet this is the first time we have held in our lineage a winter Dharma gathering for the nuns. And so the reason for having the Winter Dharma gathering now is not because I personally have the particular skills and ability to do it. It's not because I'm some great person doing it. Actually, it's if we look at the way things really are in the world. In this world, over 50% of the world population is women. And it is women who have the stronger imprints for the Dharma, who have greater inclination towards the Dharma. And so, in particular, the nuns are people who need to uphold the teachings of the Buddha. And if you're going to be an individual who upholds the teachings of the Buddha, then you need to have all of the facilities, everything you need to do it. And what you need is the complete training in the three different, you need the complete practice of the three different trainings. And so this is something that is necessary. And if we who are people who are taking care of the lineage, who are in this, if we religious people do not give such an opportunity, then this is something that we are letting our own responsibility lapse. We are not doing what we should be doing. And this is not something that would be, if we deny the nuns an opportunity to such as this, then this is not something that would make our lineage look good or be for the benefit of anyone. It would instead be a grave mistake. And so for here, the Winter Dharma gathering for the nuns is really deeply connected to the cause, Buddha nature, as Gyaltsab Rinpoche said yesterday. As Gyaltsab Rinpoche said, we all are able to awaken to Buddhahood. But in order to awaken to Buddha, we need to have the facilities in it. As it said in the text, all sentient beings are Buddhas themselves, and yet they are obscured by adventitious stains. And so here, all sentient beings are Buddhas themselves. And so you say themselves, it's a very strong, courageous word. But then we say, and yet, and it's kind of disappointing, letting down. But basically, in terms of the basis, we are all the same, and yet we are, the basis itself is not obscured by, yet the basis is obscured by the adventitious streams. And so when you say Buddha or Buddha all the time, then really what we're talking about is that basis, the natural basis that is present within all of us. And yet, as we are new to this, we are still obscured by the adventitious stains. And so we need to do this. We need to develop this ourselves. We need to have the confidence to be able to develop our potential and purify ourselves. And so it's not like something, some extraterrestrial is going to come. You know, we think, you know, extraterrestrials have big heads, they have big brains, and the Buddha has some sort of an ushnisha, the knob on the top of his head. He must have a big brain. So therefore, when we become Buddhahood, we'll get some sort of a big new sort of brain, become sort of a new sort of person. That is not how it is. Actually, it's a question of developing our own qualities. They're the qualities that are naturally present within us fundamentally. And so we just develop those qualities. And so if we want to achieve Buddhahood, then we need to have the confidence. If we're always saying to ourselves, oh, I can't do that, there's no way I could do that, then there's no way that we're going to achieve Buddhahood. It's like my sister when she was giving her talk yesterday. At first she was saying, I can't do it, I'll tremble, I'll shake, there's no way I can do it, it's my first time. Well, if we're going to awaken to Buddhahood, I said to her, if you're going to awaken to Buddhahood, you have to do this. You have to have the confidence. If we do not have such confidence, we will not be able to awaken to Buddhahood. And so for that reason, if we want to achieve Buddhahood, we need to develop that confidence in ourselves.